Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome to a very special bonus episode of Reese Rambles. That's right, this one's going out of sequence. It's going out hopefully on a Saturday evening, when, of course, these would usually be on a Friday night at 2 minutes to midnight. And it's also going to be a video exclusive. This one isn't going onto the podcast platforms for a reason which should become very, very obvious in a second. Now, the purpose of this video is that there are actually two reasons that I'm putting this together. One is to address some issues and kind of give some feedback on that, and also to test that. But the other is kind of to show my, you're my core audience. You're kind of around the sort of 1,000 people who watch these on YouTube every single week. And I thought I'd give you something back as well for helping me out with this issue, in the form of some behind the scenes stuff, some insight into the actual workflow of how I put these together. So let's stop beating about the bush and actually face the issue head on. So the problem is audio and video synchronization, and I get comments about this on my rambles. I seem to get them every week. For some reason this week I've had a few more than I would usually have, and I must admit this bothers me as well. This is the video and the audio being ever so slightly out of sync. So I thought, rather than wait till next week's ramble to try to fix this and potentially have yet another one go out there with this issue, that I would make a special video to test this and also, like I say, show you my process. So I think without further ado, as they like to say on YouTube, and as I like to say for some reason, I don't know where I picked that up from, but there you go. Let's switch to my recent studio tour. So this is my main channel process. So I have a camera, Sony ZV-E10. I love this camera. It's Sony's kind of entry-level mirrorless interchangeable lens camera, but it's great. It records at 4K, 30 FPS, and it takes these interchangeable lenses. It's got this lovely Sigma lens on it at the moment, and I have another kind of Sony Zeiss lens, which I use for my B-roll shots and stuff, which I showed in that tour. And as you can see from this, there is a cable sticking out of the side of the camera. And that cable goes to the screen that you see on the desk. Now, the reason for that, of course, is so I can see that things are framed properly and in focus and lit properly. Particularly talking headshots when I'm here at the desk. Obviously, I can see it very easily in my line of sight. And if the top of my head's cut off or one of my lights has gone off or something like that, you often don't notice these things when you're kind of in full flow. But it's very obvious when you can see the output from the camera. And also, when I'm doing like close-up B-roll shots of things using that other lens, it's really useful for seeing if stuff's in focus and if it's lit properly and that kind of thing. So that's what I use the HDMI output for when I'm recording my main channel videos. Now, of course, I hit record on the camera, and the video itself is recorded to an SD card, and I record the audio from the built-in microphone on the camera. And that's very important. And the reason that's important, if we just switch back, is because you probably noticed in those videos that I have a little lapel mic that clips onto my collar just here. This is a Rode Lavalier 2, and apologies for my pronunciation of Rode. I know it always upsets Scandinavian people, but it's kind of become the accepted English pronunciation. So that's what I'm going to stick with. Again, sorry. And that's actually plugged into this. Now, this is actually a standalone microphone in its own right. This is a wireless Go 2. And if you watch some of my early studio tours, you will have seen me walking around with this clipped to the front of my T-shirt here. And there are lots of people that actually just use them like that. And the audio quality is very good from this. But I found it quite bulky, and I also like to be able to look down and check that the lights are on and that it's actually recording. So I have this plugged into here, I have this clipped onto my collar, and then this just clips onto my pocket down there, and I can glance down and make sure that it's definitely on. And what I do, so this, when I plug this into my computer here, this shows up as a mass storage device, and they're basically just WAV files, which I can drag into DaVinci Resolve, which I use for editing. And then I can copy the files from my camera and drag those into the same timeline. And it's literally just highlight the two, right click, and there's an option that says synchronize based on waveform. And it uses what the camera's internal microphone has recorded to synchronize with the audio that's been recorded by this. And it's absolutely perfect every time, absolutely spot on. Really, really easy. But of course, that workflow is quite complicated, and it creates a lot of very big files, which I have to copy from the camera onto the laptop, and I have to copy the WAV files, and I have to do the synchronization thing and everything else. And I want to reduce friction as much as possible for these rambles, because if they weren't low friction, they just wouldn't happen. I just wouldn't have time for them. So I like to spend the maximum of about 2 hours recording, editing. And when I say editing, I mean I literally just drop. So I basically record each news segment as a separate video, which I'll show you in a second. Just drop them into a timeline, trim the beginning and the end of them, stick a very basic flash transition between them, export the whole thing as a video, upload it to the second channel, and that's pretty much job done. And yeah, the reason, like I say, is because if it was any more complicated than that, I just wouldn't be able to do these. And I do these, as I kind of hinted at the beginning, I do these for two reasons, really. As I hinted at the beginning, the first reason is because I have a core audience of about 1,000 people who watch these every single week and look forward to them and make them part of their routine. And I'm really kind of pleased and really honoured to be part of that routine. And I do feel like I kind of owe it to those people to continue. Of course, the other option, the other reason being that I enjoy these. But kind of the reason I started doing these rambles, if you haven't been with me since the beginning, is because I wanted to get better at speaking kind of off the cuff, unscripted. And it has actually progressed to the point now that my main channel videos are completely unscripted. So I have a list of talking points that I want to talk about in those. And I'll do a few takes until I get one that I'm happy with, as I do with these. But it's reduced the ums and the ahs and everything else. And I think it has been massively beneficial to those, and just in life as well, just kind of talking to people. It makes me a lot more confident and stuff, I think. So that's why I record these, why I started doing the rambles and why I continue to do them. Now, the workflow differs quite a lot, as I have mentioned, and I'm going to show you using my phone, because I don't want to be recording the screen and adding extra complication and stuff. So this is the software that I use to record Reese Rambles. It's called OBS, which is Open Broadcast Suite, I think, something like that. And this is actually streaming software. So this is what the Twitch streamers and the YouTube streamers actually use for their live streams. And I only use an absolute, a tiny little fraction of what this software can do. You can have things that pop up all over the screen. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen it all if you've watched any live streams. But the reason I do this is because I can just plug my microphone in, my NT USB Plus, and it will record the output from that live. And then I connect the camera using that HDMI output that I mentioned earlier, and that plugs into this, which is an Elgato Camlink 4K. It's not perfect, but it does kind of work. And I use that for capturing video from like OSSC, upscalers, and my Mister and stuff like that as well. It's just a really nice kind of basic, straightforward HDMI capture device. The trouble is that introduces some lag. So today I've been doing some testing trying to determine how much lag it introduces. And I found some Reddit posts and things that suggested that would be around 200 milliseconds, which I didn't believe myself, but I recorded some test videos and stuff like that. And it turns out that you can actually set this in OBS. And yeah, my findings were the same. It's 200 milliseconds of offset between the audio and the video, which is absolutely insane. Because, of course, this is a USB 3 mic. It's just instant. There's no kind of delay there at all. I'll tell you what, I'll switch this off. Is this everything? Oh, actually, I'll show you one more thing. Just while we're doing the behind-the-scenes thing. So we have scenes here, which are... some of these I don't really use. I only actually use 2 for the rambles. These are kind of things that I've set up for some other devices and things. But when I'm showing websites on these rambles, I go to the web view, and this is what I actually see, which is what comes up on screen. Now, of course, I don't live stream this, which is what this software is kind of designed to do. It can also record to file, so that's what I do. And I just record it, and it spits out an MKV file. We'll just switch that off. It spits out an MKV file, and for each recording, each news item, and I just drop those straight onto the timeline, like I say. So that is the process, and that is why I record the main channel videos the way that I do, and why I record the rambles the way that I do. But I didn't want to introduce any kind of extra overhead to this because it needs to be as simple as possible. So that's the solution that I've come up with, adding that 200 milliseconds delay. Now, I am going to have to test that every single week when I sit down to record these because I have a feeling that it does vary. I'm not quite sure why it varies, probably based on load on the system or what mood the cam link's in on any given day, because it does sometimes freeze up and stutter and stuff as well. But yeah, hopefully that is the solution to the problem. So I hope that all makes sense. And if you are watching, if you're still watching at this point, I would very much like to know your thoughts on this. Has this actually fixed the problem, or is this a problem that you've not actually noticed before? I would very much like to know. I have made one other change as well, which is I've discovered that I can actually output in 4K 30 FPS from the camera, which I much prefer. These videos don't need to be 60 FPS, but that's just what it was set to, because I don't know. I have no reason why Sony decided to do that, particularly as it only records at 30 if I record actually in camera. So I'm also going to be recording these at 30 FPS as well, because I think that's going to reduce a lot of the kind of processing burden and overhead on the cam link. They don't need to be 60 FPS. Keeps the file sizes much smaller as well for obviously when I upload it to YouTube. I just do these in 1080p at whatever the automatic bitrate is. They're not as good quality as my main channel videos. Everything is optimized to try to make it as quick and as easy as possible. So let me know down in the comments if that has addressed the issue. And also, hey, did you find that interesting, seeing how I record stuff? I think this is a very good way to record these kind of very quick, off-the-cuff videos as well. So, yeah, it's hopefully that's of interest. So thank you ever so much for helping me out with this, and hopefully if we've finally managed to nail this issue, next week's Ramble should be all the better for it, which benefits everyone. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and yeah, bye.